Thank you. Thank you, Dara. All right.
Well, will it be? I guess we'll get settled here. And when we got this place, we forgot that we're on La Brea, and it's outside. So it's gonna. Hopefully, you guys can hear us. But we talk about climate change. So let's start off right now. Like, if I say, what is climate change? Who wants to respond to that? What does that mean to you? What is climate change? Anyone? Weather. Okay. Weather's serious, right? I mean, recently in LA, we had a tsunami, it felt like, for a minute there. And hot, cold. And I think, we'll probably have another really hot summer. But, yeah. So anyone else? And what does climate change mean? Let's talk about change, the word change. What does climate change mean, though? Say anyone here. No one? All right. Well, let's talk about it. So in our theory, when we're talking about climate change, it's about using what we call MEVs, and we call it a mobile electric vehicle store powered by clean energy. So in our stance of clean energy, we mean solar and battery storage mixed with electric vehicle. And in that, we try to mix that with temperature control, as well as SaaS and e-commerce integration. And we'll dive more into that as we're speaking here. This is a picture of the Automata. And in our next slide, you'll see the actual Automata. There it is. So we say like Meet Automata or Hello Automata is our handle. And this one, as you can see here, this is an event we did recently with Liquid Death. And so the goal of the Automata was to not just provide climate change, but how do we, use less carbon footprint of a storefront and say you don't have to have, that much room into your store. We could put, for example, like we worked with Red Bull. One of our Red Bull trucks is like having 6 7-Elevens inside the box. So when you think about that footprint that goes to manufacturing environment, that's a huge cost. And what we do here is that the Automata could go to location, to go to events, and through our integration again of e-commerce and SaaS, we're able to make it right away. So for example, of this Liquid Death vehicle, we were able to program Liquid Death in a matter of 24 hours for this event called Curb Reward that we just were at a couple weeks ago. So one of the things that when I was at Tesla that I fell in love with was the idea that Elon would talk about, which was called sun battery to consumption. And that we'll talk about on a low level, on a mid level, and a high level. But on a low level, it starts with us, like right now what we're doing. We're using a low speed electric vehicle. These are vehicles that go like 25, 35 miles an hour. They fall in line with what's called micromobility. So they can go onto a sidewalk. They could go into a store. They could go into an event center because they're completely self-powered. And so by combining this, we really feel that we're adding, an effect to climate change, not just for the business that we serve, but mainly also for the user. So when a user comes up to see the vehicle, they really learn about how, either how they can make a difference or basically, finding interest into what we're doing.
Getting to south of this.
And then, if you look here, we call it a two-punch combo. What if hardware and software had a child? And that's kind of what we really invented here, was that we're programming quick e-commerce. When I mean quick, we could, if Liquid Death or we'd working with Pathwater here was able to run underwater, they could simply put in 20 waters in locker number 1, and they're up running into the cloud in a matter of 60 seconds. So a lot of people say when we could really solve that refill of storefront, that's like the next big thing is how do we get storefronts to be sustainable, but how do we assure them that they're going to be able to continue having product, continue to be able to sell? So that's definitely one of the tech integrations that we really worked with, because as anyone here in startups, the word hardware is now the kiss of death. So got to keep that software integrated. And we think we're doing a great job with that. So when we do at Bit Technologies with our automotive platform is we subscribe the unit to an individual. And with our finance group that we're with, we're actually able to get an automoto to any business for as little as $100 a day. And we build these out in about a 120-day period, and we call it store as a service. And we find it very accessible. Where we take a very small fee that includes everything from your IoT to your integrations to your e-commerce and SaaS, all that combined. And the way it works is on this you see someone scanning is that you simply put the products of choice into the locker, and it goes into an ordering site. You order and you pay through simply as like Apple Pay, and then you get a code and you scan it, and that's it. He doesn't care about the environment. So another thing we like to talk about is like how does a mobile electric vehicle store impact the hardware industry? Well, a nice way to think about it is as we grow these electrical units, there'll be more charging needed, more charging for that warehouse, more charging at a store. When I was at Tesla, one of the things I really strived for was combining more level 2 charging, which is the standard charger you see inside that building over there or on the street right over there. Those are your standard chargers. So if we could grow that network even more, then that creates more adoption to the EV movement. Yeah. And then so when you look at this on a 3-stage outlook at where we're fighting climate change, you can start small and you can go very large. So I want to talk about like in my view of like how can we start small? We feel at VIP Technologies we're doing a good job starting it small with this mobile store concept, and that goes into kind of our stage 1 outlet, which is kind of how we started. So when we started, we were a mobile food truck, and I was talking to some of the guys here, kind of what we did, we wanted to make it sustainable as well as the product. So we take cold pressed juice and we make it into ice cream. It is all powered on its own source using some battery consumption. And we're able to run these business for about 8 hours a day on one single charge and travel around 40 miles. And so that was like our MVP, but mainly like that led to the automoto, but starting with that low-speed electrical market and see how small it is what to do, that's like what I call stage 1. And then stage 2 is kind of saying, well, how do we start doing more things? How does this building right here become complete solar and energy storage adoption where it's powering this whole neighborhood, and that's going to really increase, the effects of the environment. I mean, how many people live here in LA? Oh, okay. So during the pandemic, if you were here, especially where I live, there's a lot of traffic here. But that first March, almost 3 years ago today, I remember walking outside and it was so clear, and I said, this must be what the future's like. It's like no cars are on the road. But it's not just about cars. It's also saying, how do we get into boats? I mean, a lot of people don't know, but oil tankers are the most highest leading cause of the environmental impact. Everything you see at Long Beach, all that is the worst thing you can do right now for the environment. There are companies out there working in fuel cell and hydrogen, trying to make these tankers clean powered, but it's a challenge. So when I say stage 2, it's buildings, commercial, it's boats. And then stage 3 is pretty much the apocalypse of fossil fuel, which is like, how do we one day get cities to completely run on their own power source? And so when you think about that at a high level, that's sort of what we're doing at BIP Technologies. We're taking that theory, put it to a box, taking technology, software, integrating that, having open APIs, and letting people have their own business, help major corporations out if they want that help. But I would say this would be the stage 3 is how do we overtake the grid? Maybe we'll see in our life, but I'm happy to answer any questions on this. There's a lot of information. You guys are blown away, I can see. Well, yeah. Also, That was AI created. So I make that clear. And so was that. But I forgot to end my talk. So I call it new rules. I did not get that from Bill Maher, but the new rule is that you can all make an impact. It's hard. I mean, I think every year we have Earth Day, what have you, and people say, "Hey, ride your bike to work." When I was at Tesla, they actually gave $100 credit if you rode your bike to work for a month. So I thought that was kind of cool, and I think riding a bike is a really big factor. I think or walking. The less things that we can do as our own humanistic approach. I think that's where you can leave here right now and say, yes, I can make a difference in climate change. Yeah. That's pretty much it. I want to thank Architects News and really thank Dara, and happy to answer any questions. I think there was a little bit of Q&A and go from there.